Can you guys hear me? All right. So let's get started. Can you guys hear me? Was it not working properly? Okay. All right. So okay, let's just I don't know. You can hear fine. Was it okay? All right. I don't know if y'all could hear me before or not. But okay, anyways, from this low to this high, this is the 50% retracement, right? And I'm expecting after this huge rally for price to potentially drop into this 50% retracement, right? We've had this, push in towards this fair value gap up here, right? So we had this drop, then a push pull back into this fair value gap. More apparently here on the 15 minute on the 1 hour time frame in this fair value gap here, and we're getting that rejection. So I do think we can push in towards our sell side liquidity at 40.9625. That's what I'm looking for price to take out 40.9625 and potentially push into these equal lows down here, right, at 40.78, right? That's what I'm looking for today's price action, right? For price to potentially push down there, right? So, and if you go down into our lower time frames, we can start looking at other factors in the chart that could potentially, be of use, right? So again, we're just seeing that we ran this low here again, right? So we ran this higher low here again. That would be our another shift in structure, right, for the potential downside. And if you go on a lower time frame here, we see that we can eventually the price set up equal highs here, which eventually will get taken out. But for now, I do think that we can continuously push into this 40.96 level as long as price stays below the trend. So one thing you can utilize is the 5 and 8 EMA on the 15-minute time frame to be able to utilize this and catch this potential trend. So what could end up happening is that we see a pullback in towards this fair value gap here and eventually continue lower. It could be even this fair value gap, right? It could be even this fair value gap here that price could reject. So in the morning session, again, I'm looking to see where price is on the 15-minute time frame, if it's above or below the 588 EMA. If it's holding above strongly, then I'm looking for continuation. If it's below it, I'm looking for continuation potentially lower. Now, what we see here is that price is gapping down, right? So from Thursday's close, excuse me, right? From Thursday's close, to today's open, which is going to be around 407, right, is going to be a huge gap, right? And so I think the light bias for the day would be to potentially retrace into that gap maybe, and then eventually continue potentially lower to the downside. Another thing that could happen is that we go, continue lower, right? We fake going into the gap and continue pushing lower into, for example, this gap down here, right? So there's many different scenarios that could potentially play out, but what I'm going to do is here again utilizing my 15-minute time frame to determine my intraday trend before entering the trades, right? So I just want to see how price is going to develop. Okay. So again, we're gapping down here, looking to see if price wants to retrace. This is a whole $3 drop, right? So we're looking to see if price can, slightly pull back into the that gap. Now, another thing you need to be noting on your chart is the new weekly opening gap, right? So the new weekly opening gap is from Friday's close, right? Friday's close to Sunday's open, right? Right here. Friday's close to Sunday's open, right? So this area, again, is another point of reference which eventually will get tapped into, right? So this chart only contains new weekly opening gaps, right? And it's simply a point of reference for price to potentially go to. And that's how the algorithm delivers, right? It goes to these new weekly opening gaps, and it's also a method to be looking at the charts, right? So we see here that we're going from rejecting these new weekly opening gaps, and we're potentially pushing down lower in towards this one here. So here, how I want to be approaching charts to play the downside is, I want to see if price is going to be using the high and low of this new weekly opening gap as potential resistance for continuation lower into this 4084 level, or even lower in towards this equal lows 4078 level, right? Then there we can be looking for some potential signs of reversals, but for now I do think we can continue lower to the downside for now. Again, based on what's going on, again, I do think that we can keep pushing in towards the 4075 level, and from this high to this low, where the pull retracement started, right? You can see that price pulled back into the fair value gap and can push in towards the golden zone down here, right? Which matches perfectly with the 50% retracement mark from this low to this high. So that could be, again, an area of interest for today's price action. And then after that, maybe we can continue higher for these equal highs or whatnot, whatever the case may be. But that's going to conclude for ES. We're going to push into some other stocks. So we have Apple here, right? We have this huge trend that price has been following. Let's see if it's from here. Okay, now. You can see that there's this huge trend that price has been following here on Apple. And with that being said, what we're seeing right now, if we're getting that trend line, we're between this, consolidation zone, right? We're seeing here Apple is in this consolidation zone. So go here on the 15-minute time frame, we see that we have our major pivot points, which is going to be the top of this consolidation and the low of this consolidation. And what you can end up doing is you can curate your zones in this fashion, right? You can curate your zones in this fashion here, where you have your large pivot points, okay? So this is one way to be looking at Apple and seeing if price wants to bounce off this zone, right? So this bottom zone is going to be acting as support for price, and we're going to be seeing how price wants to react at this level. If we break and retest, then you could see a potential push in towards this gap down here, right? It's a continuation for that downside in towards that gap. And again, keep note that price is gapping down almost $2 here, right? So this is going to be, again, another area of interest where if price wants to bounce off this zone, again, depends on what the entire market wants to do with tech and ES as well, right? If you're going to bounce off this zone, we can eventually go back and fill the gap for the upside, right? That's one way to approach it. And you can utilize the 15-minute time frame for the intraday trend shift, right? That's one way you can approach the charts here. And this gap is actually a lot bigger than that. So fix it. Okay. Right. So that would literally be what I'll be watching for. And from this low to this high, $41.63.43 is a 50% retracement zone. So this is the middle point of this entire consolidation. And so this is going to be another pivot point in price, right? If we go here on a different time frame here, we see that there's an order block here we can be utilizing, right? So that's how I'd approach and chart Apple here. I'll be looking at it from this angle and how it reacts to these specific zones. Let's go over Tesla here real quick. So here we have Tesla. We're breaking this entire trend, right? We see that we already broke that, and we're getting further into the breakdown. So currently what we're seeing here, again, we have our pivot points, this low, this high here. And you can even mark out this high, the zone. But I'd rather just keep it like this here. You can have another individual level right there as well. Okay. Above that high, above this 186.37, and yeah. So that's going to be a big area, and we're gapping down here, right? You can see we're gapping down a full, $6, right? If you go here on extended trading hours, again, we see that drop here and towards the zone down here. And here is where we can see some form of potential rejection and maybe have our intraday bounce into the upside. And we can utilize this pre-market level as a pivot point, right? But I don't really use pre-market levels, but that's how I'd go about it if I'm looking at it from that angle. So this is going to be a huge gap, and you're going to be utilizing this gap as an area where price can eventually pull back into. So If not, if it breaks, again, it really depends on what the entire market's doing. But if it breaks and retests this low, this 179 and this 180 level, this 180 level is going to be very important, right? It's a psychological number. So if it breaks and retests that 180 level, we can see some further rejection in towards these lows down here, which I'll be watching, right? Right, so those lows down there. Okay. That's how we'll approach Tesla. Someone said CL. I'm gonna do two more stocks, and then I'm gonna call it wraps here, and then go on Discord for live trading. Make sure you guys are leaving a like here. I'd appreciate that. Make sure you guys are subscribing if you haven't yet, but do drop that like. That'd be super helpful. And if you guys are not following my Twitter, make sure you guys are following my Twitter as well at SteelArmsLC. Link is in the description. So are you looking at crude oil? All right, CL as in crude oil or this? Which one are you looking at? You're looking at Colgate. Let me know in the chat. I don't know which one you want to look at. I don't know if you could even trade Colgate, to be honest. It's something new. I can chart it out for you though, bro. The chart doesn't look too good. I don't know how you'll be finding these stickers, bro. With Colgate here, never traded this before, but again, you can utilize the same pivot points here. Right, that high, those lows. Right, that's again, the best thing I can tell you on the chart. Look at these pivot points. Shop, yeah, I can look at shop. I think it's looking pretty weak here, to be honest. I think trend still might be holding, but overall, I mean, the general trend is still holding, right? All right, I'll go over crude oil. So we have this general trend here, and for shop, and I'll just be using this low and these highs, and I'll go in a lower time frame as well. So we'll go on this 1 hour, 15-minute time frame here. We see that again. What we can be utilizing are these pivot points here. Okay, utilizing that pivot point and these lows down here, right? And these highs up here. As some pivot points along with this zone here as well, right? That's how I look at shop, and yeah, if it continues to drop, then I'll be looking at these lows and eventually this low here, right? So you can go and look and see how price eventually reacts to these various levels. So this 4280, 42 level. You're also gapping down a whole almost dollar, right? So you're gapping down here, and then maybe that gap fill could be your trade of the day, to be honest. That gap fill is potentially what you should be looking for. If not, you can potentially look for a continuation to the downside and towards this zone here. So either price pushes back into the gap fill or breaks down into this zone, right? Okay, let's go over crude oil, bro. I don't even know how you trade this to begin with. Okay, let's just give you an idea on crude oil. It's crazy. Again, huge gap, right? From this high, this low, gap down till here. So it's consolidating. I would just wait for this consolidation to break. You can use your pivot points at 79 and 81.71. Okay, so wait for that consolidation to break and then you can trade that. Going into a lower time frame, what you can be looking for are these equal lows down here. Right, so if you're gonna, scalp it, I'd like to see a potential. So these equal lows are gonna be a factor right here, right? And what I'd like to see is, let's just remove this shit right here real quick. So we see equal lows down here, right? And we saw that price took out these lows for your shift in structure. What you'd probably see is like a pullback here. And if it rejects this mark, so from this high to this low, if it pushes into this 50% retracement and rejects it, we can see some downside in towards 79 potentially. Right, so that's how I'd be looking at crude oil. But this, I think 79.65 will get taken out today, just these equal lows. Or even that low right there, 79.60. I think that would be of interest for the trading day. But yeah. With that being said, this concludes today's session. Again, guys, make sure you drop a like. I'd really appreciate that. And yeah, I'll see you guys again in tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. We're going to be going over the pre-market live scan. We already went over Tesla. I can show it to you again. All right, so this 180 is going to be your big support and resistance level. So that's all you really got to know about. And if it rejects 180, we can push to 176. If it holds 180, we can go for that gap fill. But yeah, thank you guys, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's session. Peace out.